so critical that we take the time to discuss, to analyze, and to review what the government's spending priorities are, and we put that in the context of what Canadians' priorities are. What does Canada need? And the old saying goes that you wish someone a blessing that they might live in interesting times. Some say that that's perhaps a curse and not a blessing, but we certainly do live in interesting times. Having had the privilege and the honor and duty to represent my community in this place for just coming on 7 years now, I've seen the effect of the changing global, national, and regional dynamics on my community. And the beautiful riding that's captured in the name that you offered, Speaker, Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, is 13 municipalities, and it's a collection of stories, of families, of neighbors, of people who are the true essence of this wonderful country, the greatest country in the world, Canada. And like so many others, they have forged their livelihoods, forged a living, forged a community, and are raising a family, having broken the ground and fed the nation, fed the world with the products that they produce. It's never been for a lack of ingenuity or effort or wherewithal that hard times have fallen on my community. They have an incredibly collaborative spirit, always looking to work together and committed to lifting up the least among us. And I truly think that that is the measure of a good and just and fair society, is how we treat the least among us. And how are we doing with that? I think that, as I said, the efforts that my community has put forward have been laudable. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that they undertake. But what I hear consistently from them is that the cost of government is just, it so far outpaces what we're able to afford. Now, is that to say that everything that government does or that this government does is bad? Well, not everything. And there are the continuation of programs that have been developed in consultation with generations of Canadians that continue to be funded and that are important. But could we do better? Could we do better with the allocations that are being made? Well, yes, we could. Now, while that is true of all governments, none being perfect, what we see in this budget is an awful lot of debt. Deficit spending that is really beyond the ability for Canadians to manage it. The amount that we're spending on that debt, servicing that debt, is more than we're spending on healthcare. This is something that I hear about in my community often. What's the federal government doing in terms of resolving the healthcare human resource challenge that we have? How much money are they allocating in health transfers to the provinces? What specific measures are they taking to solve for that lack of access to a doctor or healthcare professional? And one of the things, and it's important that as the official opposition, that we oppose It's our role. It's an imperative in our system, but that we also propose. And I encourage the government as they seek passage of their legislation to meaningfully consult with the opposition. Because there's a lot that ties us together. I think there's more that we all have in common in this country than we have that we would disagree on. So why not have those consultations? Why not take a look at the proposal like the Leader of the Opposition put forward in the election on credential recognition, on having one system across Canada where personal support workers, RPNs, RNs, NPs, MDs, where their recognition, licensure, credentials, they're recognized across the board. Straighten that out. And the same for folks coming from abroad who want to bring their skills and talents and credentials to Canada to help solve our healthcare human resource challenge. That's one example of many of where we can offer constructive solutions to the government and look for them to collaborate with us on that. Every dollar that this government spends, it comes from somewhere. It's coming from the pockets of Canadians. We would say that some of that should stay in their pockets. Now, how do you do that? We encouraged the government to cap the deficit and to do more on cutting taxes. Again, not just opposing legislation put forward by this government on reduction of taxes, on making sure that we're able to work as one Canadian economy. I voted for that. I won't just blindly oppose what the government puts forward, but I do look for those constructive conversations on things like capping the deficit, on cutting taxes. Where can they save money? You know, as soon as we talk about saving money, the cries go up that it's going to mean cuts to important services for Canadians. Let's look at things like the more than $20 billion a year that's being spent on consultants. Is every dollar spent on consultants a waste? Well, I wouldn't say every dollar, but I would say more than $1 billion. I'd say more than $10 billion. And that's what this government needs to look at. And that was exposed. It was laid bare with the Arrive scam. It was laid bare with fraud in Indigenous procurement, with companies claiming to have Indigenous status or eligibility when they did not. So we really need, that's one concrete example. My goodness, $20 billion goes a long way to solve much of what ails our country and could be used to support our community. And we do need constructive conversations. We need a government who cares about our trading relationship. My community has two international bridges to the United States, our largest trading partner. And across those bridges are going more than 100 jobs from Invista in Maitland, Ontario, down to Texas. Dozens of jobs at Douglas Barwick that have been lost because of steel tariffs. So let's have those conversations. We need that collaboration. We need a government who's working with the opposition, adopt some of the priorities we've put forward. Because the people in my community, like Canadians from coast to coast, they need a government who cares. I'm offering that. I've offered that in my 7 years of service. I'll continue to do that, as will my Conservative colleagues. I look forward to members' questions. Thank you, Chair.